Welcome to another Bancroft Brothers animation podcast.
Yes. Hey, Tom. Good to see you. Bright and early. We're recording this one at 8 a.m.
We should both sound like Tony because I have a lower nasally voice this morning.
Oh, that's so
and that's
kind
what
of
you always sound like.
I know. I sound normal. I think you sound haggard.
I am a little haggard. You know what? The last 2 mornings, I'm sounding like an old man, but everybody gets this. I haven't been able to sleep in very much. Like I keep waking up around, 4 or 5 in the morning and can't go back to sleep.
Yeah, with the bladder. Maybe you have an enlarged prostate. That's what they say.
No, Tony, I just wanted to, thanks for pointing that out. I wanted to share with everybody. No, I'm still blessed that I could sleep through the night and not have that problem.
Oh, okay.
But, and I don't get headaches. Those two things are pretty miraculous. Those are the best things I have going for me, really. Honestly,
your superpowers, practically, really.
They are. And but I've also kind of always prided myself that I could sleep through almost anything, and because my wife snores very badly. She's still sleeping.
I don't think she's going to want this on the podcast. What if she listens to one episode and it's this one?
It's so unlikely, Tony. I could just say whatever I want.
You really can.
I'm like a bad husband on vacation in Vietnam.
Oh, what? I don't know what that means. I don't even want to know what that means.
That was a movie reference. Look it up, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's kind of what I have, that kind of freedom on this podcast as far as my wife goes.
I get that because she just does not check in.
She gets enough. I mean, now hold on. Does Renee listen regularly?
She will listen. No, not regularly. The only person in my family that has ever really kind of regularly listened was Caitlin, my oldest daughter.
Yeah, she used to text us. Her little thoughts about that was mean. That sounded mean. Her little thoughts. No, but her thoughts. She was younger. That's why I was.
I'm gonna have to listen to this one now.
It was cute. No, I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I mean. Like she would tell us her thoughts, and I love that. I mean, like it was the only family member of ours.
Yeah.
And
well,
I have 4 daughters. You have 3 daughters.
That's right. And now that I moved out here, for some reason now our mom is like faithfully listening, and she's even asking like, when's the next one coming out? When is it gonna drop? She's using all the vernacular like the kids.
She's not saying that at all. I actually, I didn't realize that it was when you moved out here that kind of started. I thought she'd been doing it before that. But you're right.
She had off and on, but it became like this faithful thing. It was a way of connecting.
Yeah, you're right. She misses you, Tony.
She really does. I don't know that she misses you as much, but maybe it's because she dropped you as a child.
I think it's because I moved out of the house back when I was about 21, and you kind of stuck around forever, and not till you were in your 50s did you move away from California.
Yeah, I mean, we were
that might have
very close support. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so Tom, we have some sponsors. We would be
don't say remiss. Don't say remiss.
I'm not going to just say. I'm going to say terrible hosts if we didn't mention.
Thank you.
And one is Sketch Wallet. Sketch Wallet has been a long time supporter of the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast. We love Ralph Thomas. We see him at the conventions because he's always there selling his product, which is awesome.
Smiley face and curly hair. That's Ralph.
He is, and he's got his daughter helping him out with his business too. You see her sometimes on Instagram. It's really cool.
She seems very cool. Like pink hair, that kind of thing.
Yeah. She's doing things, trying things, whatever.
Yeah.
But Sketch Wallet though is for the up and comers, but it's also for the traditionalists. It's for anybody that wants to draw and have money in their pocket and put them together. And you got a Sketch Wallet because it's a sketch pad inside of a wallet, a billfold that holds money and credit cards and the whole thing, and a number 2 pencil. That's what makes it unique and makes it a Sketch Wallet. Go to sketchwallet.com and check them out.
And guys, tonight we are going to talk to, I know we got one more. I'm going to get to it. Tonight, I'm just giving you a teaser. We're doing a Q&A. This is a very casual. I said tonight. It's the morning. We've already established that. That was weird.
Yeah.
But this is gonna be a very casual podcast, just Tony and I. We do have some users, fan questions, a Q&A, and our 7 subscribers came in and really are hitting us over the head with some really.
They got articulate, yeah,
very good. and then also, a little bit of industry talk we'll drop in there because that's just what we do. But anyway, the other amazing sponsor is Stewart Ing Books. That's stewartngbooks.com. And you go there online because you can get all your stuff sent to you if you have an address and a mailman. And I know that's not
Yes.
everybody in the world, but if you have those two things, you can get stewartngbooks.com to send you the most amazing and creative and inspiring books that he finds around the world. Honestly, artists are coming to him and saying, I have leftover sketchbooks from this Comic Con I just did in France or whatever. Would you be interested? And believe me, he doesn't say yes to everybody. He's very selective, but he
Oh yeah.
grabs the, if you're in that top 10 of artists that everybody loves, believe me, he's probably got some of your stuff because you went to him and he said, you betcha. Or guess what? He probably came to you because he does that also. He
Mm-hmm.
curates the most amazing collection of books and sells them to us, oftentimes getting them signed by the artist. Go there to stewartngbooks.com.
Yeah.
And
I
back
just
to
felt
the
like
show.
we should finish our sponsors with yeah.
Yeah. Go
Go there.
now.
Yeah.
Supercharged.
Animation. Yeah.
All right.
Tell me,
So
that's what I do for my students, Tom. I charge them up by going. We start every class. Well, no, more than we end. We end with applause, and I go animation. Yeah.
at
Every
the
class
end,
at the end.
wow, that's weird.
No,
I don't do anything
that's the
like that.
energy. That's the energy that I support for a 3-hour class at Lipscomb University. I get
Honestly, I
them
don't ask
started.
them
I
to.
crank
I've
them
never.
up.
Yeah.
We do critiques and reviews of their animation. I do draw overs, and then I
Mm-hmm.
end with animation. Yeah, and
Now
they're
get
like,
out of here.
yeah, more homework,
Get him up
more
into
Emmy
a
twins.
fervor. Yeah. No, I've never had to ask my students for applause. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
ask. I don't
Yeah.
ask. It comes,
Oh.
Tom.
Oh,
It
really?
comes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it too.
Oh,
Anyway,
it comes like
I,
the night.
I did want to. Okay, so something is in the works right now that I kind of want to share just live. It has not been worked out. Tony, you don't even really know all about it yet.
I
Um,
want to know. I want to know, like our listeners, what is
but here's
happening.
the thing: the Bancroft brothers are working on a feature film. It's a 2D animated
What?
feature film. This is
Yeah.
is actually not the surprise part of it, because we have kind of talked about this loosely. We can't say a lot about it. It is a Christian film, and that's also feeding our hearts really well. I love it.
Mm,
Um, Tony and I have been saying that this actually feels like the dream we never thought
that would happen.
would happen, honestly, and didn't
Yeah.
even know to ask for, honestly. Like it was
Yeah.
a dream that I didn't even know I had, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm.
And but to put together our phase, work together, our first time in I think 25 years that we've
Yeah.
worked together on a film,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mulan being the first time, um,
And
and
the
then
last.
and the last, well, till now, that was my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and but my first time getting to direct Tony and tell him what to do, I was like,
Yeah. That's a
thank you.
first and a last.
It might be. We'll see how it goes, Tony. Uh,
Oh, wow.
anyway, yeah,
My
work
head's on the
harder.
chopping block.
Um, but anyway, it's been a dream, and now it is an independent feature film, and we could talk forever about that, and maybe we'll do a podcast down the road about
We should. Yeah.
working. What's the difference between a big studio production and independent feature film? And obviously, money and time, I will say.
Yeah. And it
And
has been done in Toon Boom Harmony, kind of rigged puppet animation too,
yeah,
largely. But we're also working with a team that is going to do some real traditional stuff too. So we're pretty excited about what we can do.
yeah. So there's going to be much like some of the better, well, I don't want to say TV shows. This will look like a feature for sure. But if you've seen some of the really well done, like Mercury Filmworks kind of style studio, that kind of a production pipeline where it is a hybrid. They're doing, obviously starting with
Yeah.
rigs and then taking it from there. So very excited about that. We've done a ton of work. Tony and I are doing like special poses on the weekend. Tony's doing most of them. I'm just kind of going over them.
It's a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's
It is a
fun.
lot.
It is fun. But when you don't really have, we're just a tight team, very small, meaning
Yeah.
And so,
I
yeah,
mean,
the
you could
burden
count on
falls on.
probably 2 hands, like,
Yeah.
and that's not probably counting the storyboard artists, but, like, the art team that's involved, um, almost from beginning to end for the last year, it's been that small of a crew that's creating all of the art. We're talking about backgrounds, character designs, expression sheets.
Yeah.
We're into the details now. You
Well,
know,
and Tom and I have always had like 2 jobs going at the same time. So really, this has been intensive, but then also we're both teaching at Lipscomb University, as we were just talking about. So balancing time and schedule and not getting so sucked into this world is and having time for family and all that, that's a podcast in itself, just talking about balance, right?
yeah, we get those questions. By the way, we are going to answer some fan questions a little bit. And that usually is one we get. Oh, tell me about life balance. It's usually somebody that's new in the industry that just got married and is like kind of freaking out that they can't keep up with their peers in the studio that are all single and staying there all night. Um,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I remember feeling that way, like,
Yeah,
uh-oh,
because
am I gonna,
we were both young when we got married, early
yeah,
in our careers, for sure.
yeah. We were both married when we were young too.
But were you gonna say something, Tom, about
Yeah. So
going to Ireland?
I was about to go there. So yeah, in a week. So right after this drops, this is supposed to come out this Friday, whatever day that is. Today's the 23rd, Tuesday. We're hoping but next week we leave Saturday, and all the next week we will be in Ireland. We're
Yeah.
going there to meet with our partner studio for the feature film, and that's Lighthouse Studios. Very cool. They're right across the street from Cartoon Saloon, so there might be a little trip over across the street to kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
say hi over there, I hope.
In lovely
Um,
downtown Kilkenny, Ireland.
but the animation industry in Ireland, I've always been fascinated about, and I think a lot of our listeners probably have. They've heard anything about it beyond Cartoon Saloon. I mean, there's a real boom and has been, and yes, Cartoon Saloon started it. Like, let's be honest. And actually,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I'm going to back up. The Don Bluth Studio started it.
Don
They
Bluth,
were,
yeah,
yeah.
they had a studio there for many years. That's where they made, I wanna say, was it Thumbelina maybe? Is when they first moved over
Oh,
there?
no, they
Or it was
more than
later?
that, but maybe that was their first one. I can't remember what their first one
I
was, but
think
they
it
worked on
was.
many, multiple feature films there, because they got some really great money kind of thrown at them and tax incentives to come to Ireland, and an investor, I think, that was
Yeah, that was over
in
there.
Ireland, and so he wanted to help support. And really, that kind of created the animation industry in Ireland. There's no doubt about it. I've heard many stories that was the kickstart to the Irish animation community. And
Yeah.
anyway, what we're hoping to do is have a live Bancroft Brothers podcast in Ireland.
What? I see, I
I
haven't
know,
heard this, Tom.
next Friday. And
Next
so
Friday, okay. In a
um,
pub? Are we sitting in a pub drinking,
I actually hope not.
getting a stout beer or something? A lager? I don't know. What do they have
So
there?
a guy reached out to me, Tony. This is how this is starting to. We already had talked about it. This was an idea I had because we had a free Friday, basically a half a day Friday that we're free
I
before
love
we
free
fly out.
Fridays. Yeah.
Before we fly out the next day, and
Mm.
so we're with our producer and my co-director friends, and they'll be with us too. But we were like, you know what? What if we met with some of the studios? And I was just thinking, oh, let's take some tours of, like, I think Boulder Media is out there, and Brown Bag,
Brown bag,
um,
yeah,
and
productions.
and specifically, I'm talking about in I want to say Dubai. That's
Dublin.
not Dublin. There it
Dub
is.
No, it's Dublin. You gotta say it
Dub-
like this, Tom. Dublin.
there it is. You're so good at
Yeah,
that.
I know. I'm gonna
I
I'm
want you
gonna
to
start
talk like
breaking it
that
out.
while we're there.
I'm gonna be like, "Hey, mates, how you going? We're gonna
Yeah,
get a pint? Let's go get a pint at the pub in Dublin."
you went to 3 different languages, or
I
oh man,
I
that was
insulted
awesome.
3 different nationalities.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that
heard a
was
little
not the goal.
English.
I thought it sounded good to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I heard Indian for a moment there, and then I think
"Hello, mate."
I heard, yeah, well, Australian, yeah, that
Yeah,
was there.
that's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
maybe they don't
anyway,
say mate.
a friend of, not a friend of ours, but Tony, somebody that you don't know about this yet, Cole Delaney.
Cole
He's some
Delaney. How do I know that
that
name? I know that name.
Okay, you were on his podcast called The Animator's Breakfast. Does that
Oh,
sound
yeah, yeah,
familiar?
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. While
Go
back,
check that out.
long time
Once
ago.
you've listened to all of our podcasts, then go listen to his,
Yeah,
okay?
then you're
All of
allowed
ours, over
to skip
200
over.
episodes, yes. But anyway, Cole, nice guy, he reached out and he wanted to do a podcast with me, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, I'm going to Ireland and, busy this week, and the next week I'm in Ireland. Can we do it after that?" Kinda just happened to mention it, and then he goes, "Hey, I live in Ireland. I'm in Dublin." And I was like, this is
And
right
you
when I was
said,
thinking about
"Dublin? I am going to Dublin."
"Aye, matey." No, that was anyway.
Oh,
I did get excited. I was like, "Oh, opportunity." And so I said, "Yeah, well, we're coming out, Bancroft Brothers. We really want to do a podcast if we can, or something like that, and maybe I'll do yours too." But I kind of teased.
nice.
Um, and then
Nice.
but he said, "Oh, I happen to be, I'm very entrenched. I think it's a small community. I think they're all very entrenched." Because I said we were going to Lighthouse. He's like, "Oh, I
Entrenched
know this person."
with work? With
No,
what?
no, entrenched in the community, like, they all know each other,
Oh,
is what I
oh,
was
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
And, I think it's a small community, and so he's like, "Oh, yeah, in Dublin, there's all these different studios, and, I'm sure let me reach out," and anyway, so he's starting to kinda try and put something together. So, if you are in Ireland and you're listening to this, and this is this Friday, hopefully, a week from now, we will be out there, and there's some kind of mixer hopefully being put together. I said it's BYOB. Don't We're not paying for it. Bancroft Brothers aren't coming with like renting out a some hall or something.
So if
Uh,
you're wondering what's going on, put your ear to the Blarney Stone, the Blarney Stone,
Blarney. Yeah,
and
there it
then
is.
you'll hear what's going on. That's how they communicate through the Blarney Stone.
Yeah. Do you know that? So the Blarney Stone, we may see it. I don't know exactly where it
I
is.
think we're saying it wrong too.
Yeah, I think it's near Dublin, I'm assuming. But you have to kiss it upside down. I think a lot of people don't know that. But you're supposed to get
I
like
think that's what they told you. That's
turn
what they
over
tell
backwards.
visitors.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I
That's
my
that's gonna be you. And they'll go, okay, now Tony, you can just kiss it regular.
yeah, and they say the Irish people in the evening at night they pee on it so that they can just laugh at the people that are visiting and then are doing
Oh
that.
boy, that sounds right. That sounds
Yeah,
actually true. I am
uh,
not kissing the Blarney Stone.
guaranteed it happens. So that's the sad state of just people. We're not ranking on Irish people by any means. They
No,
would
we
do
love them.
that.
Well, they're going to be
They
our new
do
brothers
worse
and
in New
sisters.
York. Come on.
You know what I love, Tom? Though I love where this is going. First of all, I'm excited since I'm hearing about this for the first time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
starting to take shape. It sounds like.
yeah? And so we're probably going to interview some local talent there in Dublin, and get familiar with the animation industry there. I love that. We've done some trips to gosh, we've been to Canada, and we've done a podcast there. We've been to Italy. Every time we've gone to different countries, we seem to do a podcast at least from that area, Mexico, and try and get the local talent to be involved with the podcast. And you learn so much about one.
Mm.
We're all the same deep down, right? All of us animators,
That's
all of us
that's the
in the
number one thing.
trenches.
I went to Dubai once and it was amazing. It was a Comic Con, so it wasn't necessarily animators, but artists. It was
Yeah,
comic artists and things like that. I couldn't believe how similar, and the geeks are geeks everywhere, walking
they
around
really
and
are.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll call them fans because they're our friends.
Well, it was a Comic Con, but
Okay, those are geeks, yeah.
yeah, they
But
were
yeah,
geeks.
they're artists are artists. Doesn't matter where you go. You know, the studio system and the gripes about pay and overwork and all that seems to be very universal. Some countries worse than others, for sure.
Oh, for
Oof.
sure.
Oh, I've been to China. I've been to Asia. So I've toured Miyazaki's studio in Japan, Tom.
I've heard this story on our podcast. Continue with another
Oh,
story.
no, I mean I have told it on a podcast before,
No,
but
I know you have.
and I'll bring it up. I know we got some Q&A to get to, so I'll tell that story again because I've been recently very reminiscent, I will say, about Miyazaki because I just watched The Boy and the Heron over the weekend.
Oh,
Phenomenal feat
yeah.
of
No,
artistry.
okay.
I
Spoiler
gotta
free.
say,
Go for it.
yeah, this is just a review, not talking about the story, but the story, like many of his films, particularly recently, like I'm going to say in the last 10, 15 years, have gotten, very odd, weird, quirky for my Western head, I guess. Maybe in
That's
Japan,
probably a
although
fair way to say it, that you're
I've
Western
heard
head.
that
Yeah.
younger Japanese people are kind of look at it as, yeah, that's that guy that always does stuff about nature and Japanese ghosts and spirituality that they don't really adhere to much in the younger generation. So they feel
Right.
like it's like old school. It's almost like, going to see a fairy tale, like if Disney put out tomorrow a very traditional, like
Like
what Glenn
Snow
Keane
White.
wanted to do with Tangled, right? He was going to create Rapunzel in a very old school traditional way.
Hmm.
And Disney was like, nope, we're going to turn that on its head and we're going to make Tangled and it's going to be irreverent and funny. And
Like we did with Emperor's New Groove.
that was a score, Tom. That was a big
Yeah.
score.
It
Don't
was a
make,
slow burn.
you're not making fun of Emperor's New Groove now, are you? You saw my
Everybody
mug,
loves
right?
Tony. I know. I did. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It
The
says
poison for
the
Cusco.
poison for Cusco, the poison chosen specially to kill Cusco. That poison. that was not
Do it with
that's
an
not my
Irish
best impression.
accent. Irish accent.
I,
I,
matey, the
Matey Johnson.
poison.
Just stop.
The
Okay.
poison. You got to be a
So
little
many.
reminiscent.
4 of our 7 listeners just tuned out. Okay. Shall we get to these questions? So here it is.
Yeah.
Last night, I knew we were going to do this early morning podcast. We had no plan, everybody, for our podcast. We were
Hey,
like,
what a
well, let's just get
surprise. That
together.
sounds like every podcast said, everyone.
Yeah, I know. We do interviews. Those aren't planned, but at least that person knows their story very well. Anyway, so I was like, okay, well, what if I just, and I'm going to bed at 10:30. Literally, I get out of bed and I go, I'm just going to put it on Instagram. Hey, my brother and I are doing, I put it in as a story. No, wait. Yeah, stories are the 24-hour ones. I always get, reels. Yeah, reels. Okay. It was a story. And I said, hey,
Come
my
on,
brother
old
and I
man. Yeah.
are going to do, yeah, I know. Are going to do a little podcast tomorrow morning about the industry. What are some of your questions? DM me, your questions. And so I got a bunch overnight.
Did you? Okay.
So we'll just assume these
How
are
many
all
of them want jobs?
European people.
Okay.
Or late night New Yorkers or something.
Or California. No, it'd be the opposite way.
No,
Yeah.
it'd be very, very late for California. Oh no, it would be earlier. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
we're in
3
Nashville.
hours earlier.
California,
yeah.
2 hours.
So late night Californians or whatever. But
okay.
So
Welcome
I do want to go through them.
zone.
There's no way we're going to get through all these because they're kind of meaty questions. And yes, what was interesting about it is, and I could just read them off, but I don't think I will. I'll just I'll hit a few highlight ones. But a lot of them are about just worry. You can sense the worry and the concern. And I will say that's the most vocal crowd, no matter what day and age it is and what's going on in the industry. It's those people that are trying to break in that are going to be the most vocal. Like, how do I do it? Help me. It's that kind of first reaction, I guess. And I did say industry. I was thinking like, why are everybody, did I tip this off? I was trying not to tip off like a certain, to leverage, like, how do you feel about AI? I wasn't giving a specific question. I wanted to see the range we would get. But I did say industry because I just didn't want personal questions. So I think that did lead them a little bit.
You ready, Tom? I'm gonna produce you a little bit by saying you can do 6 questions. Pick your favorite 6 questions there. We got only up to 5 minutes each if we're going to get it done in time because we do have a tight out on this podcast. So I'm going to say top 6 questions and you got to be watching the clock. 5 minutes to answer.
So we just heard last night about the layoffs that are about to happen at Riot Games. And so this first question is very pertinent. I'm throwing it to you, Tony, because we're going to let's try not to answer both of us the same question.
Okay, good.
Okay. Tony, how can you protect yourself against layoffs in this time when there's lots of rumors of layoffs?
It's a very difficult time in the animation industry, Tom. There has been so many different postings about studios laying off people. We've talked about it in prior podcasts. It has to do with the hiring bubble that was formed back in, back during the pandemic when people were going wild for product and they wanted animation, all the different streaming studios that opened up and all that. It was a great time. And
There
then
was kind of a heyday. Yeah.
there was a pop to that bubble. And that happened really in the last year, 2 years, probably, where studios are now backing away. They were spending too much money. They weren't making that kind of money return. So, of course, they had to back off of their productions, and that meant major layoffs. So, just yesterday, you're right, Tom. Riot Games announced 533 employees being laid off, including one of our very close friends. I'm not going to mention who that is right now.
Yeah.
So it's hitting home. I mean, I thank God all the time that I have a consistent job right now.
And a kind boss.
And yes, John Schaefer is a very wonderful, kind boss that I appreciate. The other co-director with Tom.
Yeah.
But I will say, it is a tough time to kind of make it through. But here's the encouraging thing, as we've talked about it before too, but this industry is mostly comparable to a roller coaster. There's ups and there's downs, there's ebbs and there's flows. What's happening right now is not going to be happening tomorrow. So if we're in a down, you can expect that there's going to be an up down the road. Now, how long that is going to be, I don't know. And to the question more specifically, how do you avoid layoffs? Make yourself really necessary as possible. If you work at a small studio in particular, become a jack of all trades as much as possible. Become more of a generalist, and that way, if they don't need you in layout this week or anything, and they're finishing their smaller job over here, you can move back into story. You can move back into animation or something like that, and you'll be able to keep yourself going a little bit more because you've made yourself so valuable to them that they need you, Joe or Joe Linda, working constantly on their stuff. At a bigger studio, it's a little harder. You tend to be a cog in the wheel. So when they're done with animation, they lay off all the animators, right? And you can't really avoid that too much. So having connections is what's going to help you there. You want to be able to jump from one job to the next job as quickly as possible. And the only way to do that is, one, have a great reputation, obviously, be a good person, socialize well, have a great portfolio, respectable work. But more than that, make connections and friends so that they can hire you and you can jump ship from one studio to another as much as possible. Not as easy as it sounds. I know it's easy to say, but I have seen people do it. I've done it myself. I've had a career where I've rarely been out of work. And I think it is because of good connections and friendships that have really helped me out through the years. And a twin brother in the industry too, right, Tom?
I help get you jobs every day.
And I've helped you tremendously.
You have
tremendously.
Tony. Yeah.
Coattails. Remember, Tom? Remember my coattails that you're hanging on?
I remember. Grip it hard.
Yeah. You might have let go right now, just for a temporary, but you'll be back there on those coattails.
This reminds me of a dream. Anyway, do you feel okay? So I'm going to take this one. You're going to see why in a second. Do you feel like future small animation studios would benefit in being part of the co-op, employee-owned model of business instead of being a typical corporation? So there's two things that they threw in there: co-op, and then in parentheses, employee-owned model of business. I don't know if that's what co-op always means, but anyway, Tony, we're working with a studio that is employee owned. Epifio is the studio that's doing all the development and kind of the main studio that's heading up our film production. And they are employee owned. And I don't know how it works. I've kind of like in the beginnings of meetings, we're just small talking. I'm trying to kind of like, so how does it work? Like, if you want to just take a day off, do you just leave? I mean, like you own the place, right?
I'm the boss,
so, right?
The king, the Shah.
There's so many Aladdin. I got it. There's so many questions that pop up on that. And also, like, do you have to then, like, if the company is suffering, do you have to throw money in? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work?
Or
like,
not take a paycheck or take a pay cut.
Yeah, there's got to be negative sides.
I think that is part of it. It must be. They want to see the company go on, so they're going to sacrifice too.
And the leadership of that company, and I'm not just talking about Pivy, I'm talking about any company that's doing this, is like, okay, how does that work? Because like, if you're the leader of that company, the CEO or whatever, you still need that leadership. the decisions you're making is basically spending their money or their potential profits, let's say that. And so do you have to go to your studio and go, hey, we got this opportunity, or I want to make a feature film, let's all vote on that. You know what I mean? Like how much of that has to happen just to move forward on any new prospect? That would be an interesting question too. My assumption is that it probably does not work that way. It's just more on the shareholder side, like they're silent shareholders, I'm guessing. Um, but anyway, back to the question is, I really do. This is exciting to me because I am doing this obviously right now with Penciless Animation Studios. We're crowd funded. And so we started with an initial amount of money that was brought to us from about 5,000 investors. And so we try and keep those investors very involved as far as like at least very updated. I will say that they can't get on the drawing board oftentimes, unfortunately, but we are always giving them updates and things like that. We have a newsletter and the whole bit, but and that's fun because like we live in a time in a world right now where you and I both like social media, we enjoy it, and so this is a sort of a form of putting all those love together of building a community but having a little bit of stakes to that community. They have a little bit of skin in the game, and that
Yeah.
it makes them more vested, makes them more interested. And to me, that is an exciting way to start making any kind of entertainment-based project because it's easy to get excited about animation, I think. And hopefully your leader, me in this case, the leaders of that venture are excited about what they're doing and can't wait to share it with you. And so we try to have a high level of transparency, kind of like we do on this podcast, Tony. We say stuff that we shouldn't say all the time. But I'm
All the
trying to do
time.
that within legal limits, with our shareholders. And so now then I want to stretch that to the next level, which is co-ops. And I mean, well, no, I'm not going to say co-ops. I'm going to say co-pros. Co-pros are huge across the
Which is
industry,
short for co-production.
co-productions. And
Yeah.
so this is how animation gets done in abroad.
Yeah.
Here domestically in the US, it's a very rare situation. And you do see it in live action films. Whenever you watch a movie and you see like one title after another of another, right? Like Paramount Pictures and sometimes even and Sony and then some smaller ones you've never even heard of. But sometimes there's 4 or 5 title cards at the beginning of a movie. That is a co-pro, right? That's the domestic version, and usually there's some like a Chinese name sometimes and stuff like that. That means they got foreign money probably, and maybe even shot some of the movie. If it's like a high budget Tom Cruise movie, they probably went to China and shot a section of it there.
Yep.
And that was part of the deal, and that's how they got that extra
Yeah.
however
You
many
can always
millions.
tell. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is happening with the big budget tent poles. That's where it's needed in the domestic world. But for your average middle of the road, and there's less and less of those movies, unfortunately. It's really like low budget or high budget. We've really gone away with the whole mid-budget kind of films, which is crazy to me, because to me those have the best payoff. And I haven't done that research, but I do know low budgets always have the best payoff. So
Yeah.
here's my plan, and this really speaks to me personally. Is Tony? I'm going to drop it right here. I want to make a feature film. I want to make a
Boom.
2D animated, not just
I
the
don't
one I'm
think
doing right
that's a
now.
secret. We all want to make a feature film, Tom.
No, but I'm saying I'm going to. I'm going to get the band back together, and we are going to do some co-pro. We're going to
And it's
partner
going to be
with a few
2D.
people.
It's going to be. I'm in
It's
if it's
going to be
2D.
2D. It's going to be
Okay.
2D.
I'm
Actually,
there, Tom.
the film that I
You
already
didn't
have a
ask, but
script.
I'm there.
Well, that was
You
going
didn't.
to
You
ask
didn't
you.
ask me.
That was
Okay.
next.
Okay.
But we're going to bring the band together. We're going to get some of you old people to work on it and some new
Oh,
people.
are
And
you
it's
talking
going
to
to
the
be
audience?
an amazing opportunity to do that. But we need investment. So I'll get to that down the road. It's coming very shortly.
That's the hardest part, getting the
Yeah,
money. It's not
right.
getting the band together, to tell you the truth. It's getting
No,
the band together and paying
you
them
get the
well.
band. I get Tony on my production if I go, I have this amount of money to pay you
And
on
I'm
this
like,
date.
okay, I
Yeah. Then you're
think I
like,
can make myself available.
I think I'm in. Yeah. So I know how you work. It's true. But anyway, co-pros yes. The short answer is yes, this is the way of the future I don't know why domestically we haven't really gone there. And I think it's because most of us think we don't need to. But we do have to start making trusted relationships. The trust part is the hard part when you're talking to
Yeah.
other studios. I'm talking to one in Colombia right now. I'm talking to people in India, a little group there. And they're kind of like smaller groups. And by the way, that's a great place to start, is with these tiny little studios all around the world and domestically too, if possible, kind of like Epifio. To start making those partnerships where you can go, you guys do this part of it, we'll do this part of it, we're going to co-own it, you know what I mean? And so it's a lot of sweat equity is kind of what
Mhm.
you're putting in at first. Hopefully then when you build that, you kind of have to build the band first, Tony, to get the investment. You can go when you go to an investor or whatever like that, if you say, here's what we have, you lay out all the deck of cards and you say, we have this studio, we have this studio, we're going to do that, this is our schedule, this is our budget. Oh, and we have this producer, we have this voice actor, hopefully a big name voice actor. That's how the deals get made. They almost don't want to talk to you until, if it's just about your story, everybody's got a good idea. They need to know, can you make that movie? Can you make
Yeah.
that TV series?
And it is
So
about the team, and
yeah,
the quality of the team and that track record that they have. Because investors, let's face it, they are very cautious with their money. They don't want to take a chance. So if you can present something that looks like a sure thing, oh, we got Glenn Keane on the crew, and Tony Bancroft is directing, and Tom is in betweening, because that's what their skill sets are. That's what they're
nice.
that's what they're known for, or whatever.
Hmm.
Then that's more exciting for an investor. They're like, oh, these people have all done those things, and they've done them at a superior level. Then most likely they'll be able to do it again.
Well, thank you, Tony. I am known for some killer in betweens.
Oh, I've seen them, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they shine. Um, 24 frames per second. All right, so here's your question.
Give it to me. I want a good one. I'm ready.
Hello,
Mental
Tom.
health.
I'll
Okay.
start with
Yeah.
hello, Tom. I would like to ask you, if do you think that Disney will come back to traditional animation and feature films? Thank you very much. Best
Oh.
with this podcast. Smiley
Oh, thank
face.
you. Smiley face. Who is that? Do you have names?
You
Do you
know
have
what? I did not
people?
have time to put down all the names. I would have had to sort of type that in. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
copying and pasting.
Thank you, unknown listener. We love you and support you also, even though you're unknown to us right now. But thank you for being one of our 7 listeners. Do I think, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked this question.
Well,
One,
Tony, they just made a hit short film that's up for an Academy Award.
that's all they've done is a hit short film. Unfortunately,
Wow.
their big level, very expensive features have bombed lately. Disney is going through a crisis right now. And it's at a time when a lot of studios are already going through financial crises, but their crisis is not financial because Disney owns and has all the money in the world.
Right.
Yet they can't seem to get their mojo back to make a good animated feature. So
But that, I'm speaking as the person asked the question. That's why, it's because they went away from 2D animation, Tony.
it's not necessarily that, but because I will say this is what I'm hopeful about Disney going back to 2D animation. This is the only thing that I'm hopeful about. They did put out Once Upon a Studio as a tribute short. If you haven't seen it already, it's on Disney Plus. It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's free. But when you see that short, you see that it's very reminiscent and has some beautiful 2D animation. They got people like me, Tom, to actually animate a scene on it. Mark
Oh,
Hen, of course. James Baxter came back and did his thing on several shots. It is just a miraculous kind of miracle in today's world to see that short. Very reminiscent. So, excuse me. To answer your question, I think because that has gotten such great praise and so many views, I'm guessing on Disney Plus, I think it's really been talked about. They've got to be more open now than ever before to like consider 2D animation again. And yet they're so unprepared. We just did a podcast with Mark Hen. Some call it controversial, Tom, because of how hard you pressed him on some of his answers.
you keep bringing that up. I
No,
did press him.
I'm just quoting Cartoon Brew.
I
It
know.
literally says Bancroft's pressed Mark to answer, or came back continually to ask these questions.
And did they write an article about our podcast because we got great answers? Yes. Check, check, check. Tony, shut
Yes,
up.
they did.
Shut
Anyway,
up.
he is a friend of ours, and so hopefully we didn't hurt his legacy at all by
No, I do want to say
having
this.
that
Hold on,
podcast.
because I didn't get to say it before. We talked to Mark off mic before, and I said we are going to ask some questions
We
that
did.
are. Is that okay? And he said, just like he did in the podcast, pause. Yes. So if you listen to
He,
podcasts, you know
yeah,
what
I
I'm
mean,
referring to.
the only thing I'm going to say is I don't know if he was emotionally ready. It was pretty close after he just left the studio and
He's
left the
still a little
company.
guarded. Yes.
So I think emotionally he might have been a little frail, and I think you picked at a scab a little bit. I'm just going to
Oh,
say.
come on. You're
I
reading
don't
between the lines.
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know. Well, you
He's
guys
a
be the
big boy.
guest. You guys be the judge. You can check it out. It just came out last week. So
You know,
Mark Hen interview. Anyway, back
yeah.
to the question, Tom. This is important. I
Well,
don't think Jennifer Lee, who is running the Disney Studios, wants to do 2D. I think it's way too many headaches. They don't have the pipeline anymore, the system of doing it. If they were to do it right now, and it would really be a clinch, like Hail Mary kind of decision for the studio. It sounds obvious to all of us, but for them, it would be like a Hail Mary. Like, we just need a hit. We need to do something that's dramatically different than what we're doing right now.
which is all
Let's
true.
do a much more classic fairy tale driven princess movie with songs in 2D. I mean, I don't think they would go back to the
Well,
beginning, but
no, I thought your Hail Mary was going to be the world is nostalgic for 2D animation. Let's go back and make a 2D film. I didn't know you were going to go to like a princess movie musical.
no, I'm just saying if they could go back to like
That seems
what is the
very
most safe?
optional.
What is the
Yeah.
most safe kind of thing? Well, we know we were having hits in the 90s. What were we doing back then? Princess movies. I'm just saying. It may not be princess movies, but 2D would be included in that as, maybe there's a reminiscence of this 2D thing. So,
Well, you
but if
said
they were,
it there, safe. They need safe right now. What
yeah,
is the most safe thing? Sequels are the first thing that come to mind. They announced that as soon as they saw, by the way, they knew they were in trouble about, we'll say 2-3 years ago. They could see
yeah,
the writing on the wall. So they started green lighting because they worked so far ahead, right? They're planning the films for the next 10 years.
yeah, definitely
So we'll
5,
say
7 years at
3 to
least.
5 years ago, they were canceling some things that they could start seeing were similar to other things they were doing, like Wish
That
and
they had
blah, blah, blah.
invested a lot of money in
By the way,
already
Wish
too.
was way too far into the pipeline, so they couldn't change that. But that
Yeah.
I think that was one of the last ones of what I'll call the old regime and the old mentality at Disney. And hopefully there's not much more left. I do think there's a Pixar movie out there that they are not talking about at all, which is crazy to me. It's called something like Elio, right?
Yeah.
Have you
No,
heard anything about this recently? No.
no, a little, not recently, but a
It's
little
supposed
bit.
to come out last look. I just looked recently, like, when is that supposed to come out? Because I had seen a poster for it like a year or two ago. Then I'd seen just recently like a trailer, but it was like last summer. And it's supposed to come out in the next 2 months, I think. I think it comes out in March. And I'm like,
Pixar's
why
struggling too.
they are not talking about that movie? And I
Yeah.
think there's a reason. I think it's the last of that regime. I'm saying Wish is, but I think actually Elio is. And I don't know what that story is behind the film, but it just looks kind of like ho hum. And by the way, we love you if you animated it, if you worked on it. We love you. It is not a personal thing about you and your work. We're talking about studios and greenlighting sort of thought processes and not and being a little bit out of touch with your audience.
Yeah, and so back to it, I think for the studio right now, it would probably be considered a Hail Mary to go back to doing a 2D animated feature. So it is a possibility. That's always a play in their playbook that could be being talked about right now. I just think there's a lot of resistance from upper management because of the pipeline changes, because they would have to, I think, at this point, Tom, I think they would have to hire some outside studios that are doing 2D on a regular basis to subcontract to help them make it. I don't think it could all be done under their roof anymore. There's not enough 2D animators. And as much as we'd like to think that there's all these old 2D animators just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, no, most of them have retired by now, or they got jobs somewhere else. They moved into storyboards or something like that. It is not easy to pull together a full feature of great quality experienced 2D animators anymore. So they
Yeah.
would probably have to outsource a lot of the work to be at, Ken Duncan
And
Studios
and
or
they've done that before, but they never
Tonic
talk about
DNA.
it. They
Yeah,
they will not talk about it. They make it sound like we did it all in-house here at Disney. It's a lie. They do not. Any 2D that you've seen come out of Disney, except for that short, because you were saying, Tony, they don't even have the production pipeline. Well, then how did they pull off that short? They do have.
it was hugely expensive and it was short. I
Okay,
mean,
right.
I mean
They
that's
couldn't
how
do
they
a
did it.
feature. No, you're right.
They spent way more than they ever would have had to back in the day, back in the 90s. If they produced that short in the 90s, half the cost probably at least. They spent a ton of money to make that short happen. And it was only because there was this nostalgia there. Higher ups really wanted to do it because it was the 100th anniversary. They felt like they needed to do something big, and that was their throw. So and God bless them for it. I think it was the right choice, and I think it's going to spur. It certainly has spurred discussion at Disney. I know there's the younger generation too. Some of the guys that actually made Once Upon a Studio. They all have a fondness for 2D animation. A lot of the younger
Mhm.
generation there, but forced into CG animation because at the time they came into the studio, they weren't doing 2D. So a lot of them want to explore that more, want to go back. And reset the clock a little bit at Disney. Will it happen? I don't know. That's all I
I,
can
I
say. I
I'm
wish I had a
asking.
crystal ball.
Yeah, that was a long answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
But this one is totally related, but because this lady is girl, okay, sorry, lady, I'm sure.
woman.
She's doing a, oh, there it is, woman. Um, do you think Disney will still be the top of the industry? Question mark. Will Disney slowly die out because of smaller studios? Sorry, making better quality films. I'm doing a research project on this for a class and would love your opinions. Thank you.
Oh, so
That
your
was
answer's
very
going to
nice.
go in her report. She's going to get
Yeah,
an A
I
if
just
you give
you
the
are
right answer.
what you said is most of the answer, so I don't want to go on long on this.
Yeah.
Uh, will they be the top of the industry? If they're not careful, they will not. They even with how big they are, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Um, that doesn't mean they fall easily. Obviously, that just means when they fall hard, right? So I do think they've got a little while before they're going to be like chopped down. But will other studios rise? Yes, and then give them actual competition. Could a tiny little studio give Disney competition? It seemed impossible before, but a David could take on Goliath nowadays because Goliath has gotten a little cocky. So, yeah, good luck to the Davids out there. And I do think it's not just going to be one; it might be multiple. But and obviously, what will end up happening too, though, is because Goliath is in trouble, he's just going to buy David, right? So David rises, does really well, starts to compete. David, I mean, then Disney will then just buy them. That's not terrible results for that indie because that's probably obviously a good payoff and all that money, um, and maybe that was the plan all along for that company. You never know, but anyway, that's just to add to that. So for your research project, uh, I would say that yes, I think a lot of independent studios. This is the rise of the independents. We've said it here on the Bancroft Brothers a few times now. I want to kind of make this the actual title of the 2020s. We'll just say that it's the rise of the independents. Okay, that's
Oh,
where we're
for
at.
all the whole decade of 2020
Yes, we had
onward.
a golden age. We had a second golden age. We are now in the rise of the independents, and it officially started in the 2020s. Literally 2020, I would say.
Okay, so
That
we're
was when
four in. We're 4 years into it.
we
How we
are,
doing?
and
How we doing?
it's a slow climb, Tony. I'm not saying it's easy. It is a hard struggle
Yeah.
to take. You're kind of in a way taking on Hollywood, which there are many studios that are doing that. Riot Games, even just recently, even with their layoffs. One thing that they did is a video game company came along and created an amazing TV series, animated TV series, Arcane.
Yes, and
And
they had all the money and all the resources in the world, so that was the big difference. That what
it's a
makes
huge
them
difference.
You couldn't really call them an independent because they had so many
No,
restrictions.
no, I wasn't saying they were independent, but what I was saying is, in a way, that was a game changer. That was somebody from the video game side coming in and sort of taking on animation in a really strong way and turning
Yeah.
heads. And so we just need more innovation like that. I can't say that all independents are going to be innovative. Some of them are just going to use AI and do it super cheap. And I hate to say that, but that's going to happen too. So not all of the independents are going to be a wonderful rise. Some of them are going to be, oh, they're going to go brag to Disney. We made this TV show that's getting all these likes and views on YouTube because it's got a YouTube star doing the voice of the character. And we
Mhm.
did it for 90% less than you would have done it. And
For
here,
19.99.
right.
That's
And
right.
that's
Throw in
how they're going
another
to get.
penny.
And by the way, this is happening already, and that's how they're getting their notoriety. And we can all say it, we hate it, and we do not support it. Many of our questions are about AI, by the way, Tony. That's why I started to go there. But
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to talk about AI and just say hate, hate, hate. That's for sure. And we've had some artists, some close friends of ours too, pros in the industry that have come out and said, you know what, it's a tool, and if we just think of it as a tool,
mm-hmm. Well,
unfortunately, it's got the popularity of more than just a tool. It's almost like it's becoming its own medium, and people are
yeah,
talking about it like, if you want to have success with a project, go AI, as if it's like saying back in the 90s when we were doing 2D animation, they were going, if you want to have success with a project, go CG, go 3D with it. And then on top of it, there was like stereoscopic 3D also. And those were medium choices. And it feels like right now we're in this place where literally investors and executives are going, we got to get us some AI. That's what we need to be a success here. And so, yeah, Tom, I just feel like AI is definitely on the upswing right now. It's where a lot of investors are putting their money. So it seems like a juggernaut that's pretty unstoppable. But I think as creatives, we just got to find ways of like, are there ways that we can use it to augment what we're doing already? But let the creativity shine from the creators. That's where I stand. We teach the next generation, so we get asked about AI and is AI going to kill my jobs and in the future and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
I just like, I don't know if and when 2D animation is going to come back to Disney. It's hard to predict, and AI is a fast moving train. But I personally do not want to see AI driving anything creative whatsoever. If it's going to be a tool, then let's use it as a tool, and it's got to be a tool that's in the background, not in the foreground of what we're creating. We still need to have passion and personality coming through in our
Yeah.
work. That needs to be the signature of what we do. That's what makes it unique. It's that human condition that comes out, that's universal, that people react to, that appeal that only humans can share one to another. It's one of the 12 principles of animation, Tom, appeal. So
I love it. We have to wrap up,
that's
Tony.
that's what I want to see. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was a little quiet during that just to see that so it's your neck that was out there, not mine. No, I got a phone
Yep.
call. But we do have to wrap up. We're about to go into a meeting. And I do want to say this though. The last question, and I want a one-word answer.
Okay.
Your most
Yes.
challenging film to animate, Tony Bancroft.
I mean, I wasn't an
Seriously?
animator, but I'm going to say Mulan. I wasn't an animator on it necessarily, but
Oh,
I want
okay.
to I want
Well,
to say Mulan
go
to
to the
work on.
question. Go to the question.
Oh, to
To animate.
animate,
Yep.
Emperor's New Groove, because of Kronk was like human, even though it still
Drawing.
has human anatomy. So from a drawing standpoint, difficult.
I don't mean to up that a little bit. Mine hardest was
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas. There's no doubt about it. But
I
talk
knew it.
about
I knew it.
anatomy. Oh,
Yeah.
honestly, Glenn Keane was the only one that knew how to draw Pocahontas. I don't know if I ever said this out loud, but we just lived off the model sheets and he would just Xerox as he finished a scene. Oh, here's Xeroxes of that scene. I have like stacks of scenes of Pocahontas, which are amazing. By the way, I love
I want
having them.
one. I
They're,
want it.
they're photocopies, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it was because we would have to flip through them and go, oh, that's what that angle looks like of her head. Oh, that's
Yeah.
what that expression looks like. He was kind of making it up on every single drawing, but only Glenn could do that. And so we were getting scenes on our desk, and he would have to come in and do a couple drawings to get us started to go, oh, okay, that's how she would look in this scene. Because I'm not saying she's inconsistent. It's amazing how consistent she is. But
there's some inconsistencies. Come on.
There is. She does change. There's a little bit of evolution for sure.
Yeah. But most characters too.
In fairness. Yeah. But does she look beautiful in all scenes and things like that? I mean, for the most part, yes, because he had such a strong control over, because he was putting in a quick sketch. And they're sometimes just super quick. He wasn't even finishing the drawings, just doing like, well, this eye, or this is how you would do that. No. So he's kind of like, it felt like every scene you were getting a little piece of the model sheet as you were making the movie. But that was a challenge. Anyway, guys, we have to wrap up right now. Tony, it's a hard out right now. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And
hi to our new friends in Ireland that we're meeting for the first time very soon.
Be nice to the Bancroft brothers when you see them.
Please don't throw Blarney stones at us.
It's like huge.
Thank you guys for listening. We love our fans so very much. Thank you for the questions tonight too. Share them around, and we'll do this again sometime. If you guys have more questions, we're always really open to answer the questions, even if we stammer through them and maybe don't have a direct answer. But thank you for joining us tonight, Tom. As we always say,
anime
from the heart.
Boo, 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 boo.
Be sure to subscribe to the Pencil-ish Studios YouTube channel.